welcome everybody. It is Friday night. We are here with the wonderful Mary Bourke from Myomunchi. We're so excited you joined us tonight. And we also have Ruth. I'm not sure if they can see us on Facebook, but we also have Ruth Bourke. How do you say last name? Ruth. Who is our occupational therapist with Airway Circle. And we have Angela Richwine, who is our also my functional therapist and dental hygienist with Airway Circle. So they're going to be helping me out because my voice is still not back. I'm a little under the weather today, but I'm here. This is an important meeting. Super excited. So first of all, thank you, Mary, for being here. Would you like to say hello to everybody?
I'd love to say hello, and it's Saturday morning for me, so it's lovely. This is natural sunlight. We're coming into the end of winter, which is exciting, and it's lovely to be with you all. Thank you, Renata, for inviting me.
Of course. I'm going to have my phone right next to me so I can keep up with everybody that's live on Facebook. So guys, if you're watching from Facebook or right over here on the chat, I want to say hashtag Myomunchi. Give us lots of hearts. Share this with your friends so the Facebook algorithm knows that this is an important message we're trying to give. If you have any questions, you can post on the chat box or on Facebook comments, and we're going to get to them. So first of all, our speaker today is Mary Bourke. She has a unique and experiential perspective on children's health and development, particularly as it relates to orofacial function. The daughter of pioneer Australian dentist, Dr. Kevin Bourke, she grew up surrounded by his passion for human health and learning about the intricacies of orofacial growth, breathing, and the origins of human nutrition. Mary has been in chiropractic practice for 30 years and is a certified SOT practitioner and craniopath. Mary is a great believer in the you're making me tongue-tie here, synergistic benefits of working with other health practitioners in a collaborative approach. This belief in collaboration has been very much a part of the philosophy behind Myomunchi and is critical to getting best patient outcomes for oral, facial, and cranial growth, neurology, and function of the stomatognatic system. And we use this word in Portuguese a lot, stomatognatic system. Mary's vision as both a health professional and in her role with Munchi is broad and encompassing of the new generations to come. And one of her key professional goals is to spread the word about the benefits of chewing and the denaturing effects of long-term pacifier use. There you go. Mary, our topic today is postural and neurological considerations for optimal airway growth and function. The floor is yours.
Okay. Renata, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm really excited to see the combination of people you've got there with you on the screen. I'm excited to have occupational therapists, speech therapists, myofunctional therapists, dentists. I love it when there's a big group of all us different people coming together. And yeah, as you said, I'm a chiropractor by background, so I bring that understanding that I have from my functional perspective, but I come from a dental background and my father was a developer of the Munchi. So I kind of come with an interesting combination. So I'll share a screen with you and I'll run through. I'm going to do a bit of a mishmash of a very brief overview of what I see as some really important factors from that postural neurological perspective of things I think are really essential to be looking at. And I'm particularly going to look at that under 5s, under 6s age group, because I think that's where the Munchi is the most powerful, but it's a really useful tool across all ages. So then I will talk history about how the product was developed by my father and what it was about, so that you kind of get an overview of that as well. And then very happy to talk any questions. And I think I'll cover most of the questions that you have there for me already, but feel free to add anything at the end. All right, so I'll see if I can share my screen. Okay. So I just wanted to say hello from Newcastle, Australia, because we're sort of all stuck at home at the moment, so I'm a bit excited to be sharing my little neck of the woods with you guys over there. now. So as Renata said, I'm a chiropractor with over 30 years of experience. I don't need to go into that, but a big passion for me in my work has always been pediatric and early development, neurologically, and early milestone development, looking at what we can do to optimise children's early growth and function. I am the CEO of the Myomunchie, so I do have a vested interest in talking about Myomunchie, and I'm the daughter of Dr. Kevin Bourke, the inventor. So, postural and neurological considerations for airway growth and function. So it's about looking at some of those early developmental milestones and what's going on and seeing what we can do to assist and optimize and even try and shift that trajectory. Because if we can spot these issues with low tone and things like that early on, we can make a massive change with how their growth development will go. So I'll talk about some movement essentials for airway growth, body posture and its relationship to oral posture, how our environment shapes our movements, what is a Myomunchie, and how and why it's an important tool for optimal airway growth and function. So what we do know is that normal is not ideal. We're seeing a lot of children with really underdeveloped oral facial area, and then also we're seeing the symptom picture that goes with that down the track. And if we can pick these problems up early before they become a symptomatic picture, then we can have a profound impact on a child's life. So something that we do know is that 80% of airway size and growth occurs by age 6 years. So in that first 6 years of a child's life, if we can help the parents to make decisions and choices that are going to enable a better outcome for the child, that is a profound piece and role that we can play. And so for people like myself who work with generally well children, I'm not seeing children who are necessarily symptomatic. And for those in the dental arena, you're not always seeing children who are symptomatic. It's a great opportunity for us to really know what potential issues look like, because we can see them very early on. We see them in these little babies' faces. And there's this sort of thing that I'm really interested in spreading the word about and doing what we can to intervene. So factors that will affect airway growth, well, we've got genetics and epigenetics. So there's certain factors genetically that will predispose a child to certain things. But there's also epigenetic factors, which are things in the environment that will encourage more expression of that genetic potential. So they're things that we can look at and go, okay, well, we know that the family history is not great around that. What can we do to encourage a better outcome? We want to look at environmental, inflammatory, there's diseases and trauma that can set up issues around that area, and that's where people who are specialised in those fields need to be working with them. But then we have biomechanical factors like alignment, tone, coordination and strength. And these are pieces that are really important when it comes to children's airway growth and function, and things that we can do a lot about early on. So if we see things like facial asymmetry, torticollis, plagiocephaly, we see children with low tone, and we often see it across the board. It's not just oral low tone, it's whole body low tone, coordination and strength. We see these things and we know that, okay, we've got to do things to try and catch that up. So, for example, like that little child with hypotonia there, for example. Anyone who's working in that, occupational therapy there, Ruth, this is the sort of thing I see in my practice as well, working with children with low tone. There's a lot we can do to make sure we get that tone working and get that system activated when it's not firing strongly. And unless they end up in an occupational therapist's office where they will get that attention, we've got a job, those who are around that, who aren't specifically the specialist in that, to alert the parent to that issue and to do some simple things and give them some simple guidance on how they can help to improve it if it's not significant enough to be in an occupational therapist's office, but we know there's a problem there. And it'll often go hand in hand with the oral motor weakness as well. And this is something I'm really seeing a lot of. So if we know that movement is synonymous with life, and from the first flicker in the womb to the last dying flicker of the nervous system, our lives are movement. And I think this is a really, really big problem we've got right now. There's not enough movement occurring. Movement has been outsourced on so many levels in our world, and never more prominently than in the oral space. We really don't need to do much moving in that space at all. But this whole sedentary culture and society, I think, is really affecting now our next generation. So I think it's a really important conversation to have. So what are movement essentials for craniofacial growth? Well, they're things like sucking, chewing, swallowing, nasal breathing. They're movement essentials. They're archetypal movements for the human function. So we have to do them. So the sucking early on, the breastfeeding, we know that that's the very first piece, and we want to get that right and get that whole system powered up and strong. Very difficult when the children can't breastfeed because of various issues. So we know that these are the kids who are going to be much more likely to be underdeveloped in that way because they've missed that foundational piece. So we need to make sure they get chewing. We need to make sure they get that correct swallow and the nasal breathing. So there's things we can do to help these children. So if we look at the suck, swallow, breathe synchrony and the foundational role that it plays in underpinning every other piece of development of the human function. And I can see Ruth smiling because she knows that this is an occupational therapy. When I saw this, it just expressed it so beautifully, because I come in at the postural development side of things. The speechies are coming in at the feeding and the language, and the psychologists come in at the behavioural and all the other different aspects, the psychosocial. There's so many different aspects of all of our function that if we don't get that foundational piece early, we're really going to have a massive we've got to try and catch them up, because otherwise it just cascades as they get older and grow. So movement essentials that we're looking for optimal facial growth and development, I see things like holding their head up, rolling, commando crawling, creeping, sitting, cruising, walking as being essential as well. Because if a child's not doing these milestones and doing them really well and getting that strength posturally, they're not going to be able to hold the oral posture to keep that optimal growth and development going. So there's a lot to be done in that first year of life in getting this child to an upright walking posture in a strong posture that will be able to then really hold that whole system so it develops ongoing. So I want to just touch very briefly on the concept of primitive reflexes. And for those of you who don't work in a space where you automatically come across these concepts, I would highly encourage you to go and learn about it yourself. Like as a dental therapist, as a speech pathologist who might not be looking at the body posture as well as the oral, if anyone's running courses where they're and you're able to go to them, go and find out about primitive reflexes, because they are so profoundly impactful. And if you can start to know what they look like in a child, you can start to recognize when they can be really inhibiting the progress you're going to make with the work you're doing. And this is why I think it's so important to have these conversations around what they look like, because if you've got a child in a dental office who's got oral primitive reflexes, they're going to really inhibit the way they're able to control and manage any of the myofunctional therapy work you're trying to do, any of that change you're trying to create with the oral posture. So a primitive reflex is something that is not under conscious control at all. It's firing out of the brainstem. It's reflexive movement that cannot be, they cannot train themselves to override. It has to be integrated, and they have to be aware of it to do it. Someone who understands it has to be aware of how to integrate it with them. So, but I would strongly suggest learning about them because they're fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So what I want to touch on here is just the body posture and the head posture. So we have head riding reflexes. We have all sorts of amazing things going on that are keeping our eyes on the horizon and up and moving forward. We have body posture that's keeping us upright. So every time we stand up, we assume a posture. Information's coming out of our brain around that, and the body position and posture, vestibular nuclei is what's controlling a lot of that. And then the jaw position and posture is a trigeminal nuclei. So you have these two very powerful nuclei, centers of information in the brain that are coordinating, and those two are required for this ability to hold the head up and then keep the jaw in alignment in the best oral posture. And there's a lot of amazing neural information coordinating that. It can seem really overwhelming and way too complex to even look at that whole concept, and we don't have to go into it. It's just to understand the profoundness of the physiology that's communicating and working this whole system. And when there are glitches in the system, life becomes more complicated for people. So the more we can do to help get all of that, this whole system functioning really well. And that's where that collaborative approach comes in. We can get the amazing human physiology working really well. So growing a strong, healthy face is a delicate balance of forces, and it's this neuromuscular system that's coordinating it. So to get a face that's balanced and everything's working well, it's pretty complex, but it should all work well. It's all programmed to be working like that. We've just got to make sure there's not glitches in the system, and the earlier we can spot the glitches, the more we can do to get a better outcome for them. So we want it to be as nature intended. So once you get that first piece working, then off it goes from there. As long as we keep moving and making sure that they get opportunity to develop and integrate as they go along. So I'm going to talk about body postural reflexes briefly. So I touched on primitive reflexes. That's what enables the baby to originally get all that movement developing in the body. We're born with this primitive reflex system, reflexive movement. So babies start to move, the body starts to move without any coordination and understanding at all and consciousness. And then as they go along, those primitive reflexes integrate and these body postural reflexes develop. And then, so you can see, and they start to learn to sit up and they get these reflexes there and they can coordinate and do all these amazing movements. And collectively, the postural reflexes provide the basis for automatic control of posture, balance and coordination in a gravity-based environment. Control of posture and movement is organised by these reflexes, these postural reflexes. Writing responses, placing reactions and equilibrium reactions. There's so much nuance and understanding that the child gets from all these different physical experiences. We need to give them opportunity to move a lot more than they are getting to do. This body has all this amazing potential and the jaws are amazing too. And we need to really educate parents about the impact certain things or lack of experience and exposure is having on their growth and development. So there are oral primitive reflexes as well. The rooting, the suck, the babkin, the phasic bite, tongue lateralization, gag. There's way more than that. And those who are very specialized in that space know what they are. But they're oral postural reflexes. What are these oral postural reflexes? The chewing, the different things we need to get that oral posture working really well so that then it holds the right posture. And what will inhibit these primitive reflexes from integrating and stopping the postural reflexes developing? Containers. Babies being contained all the time is having a really, really big impact. Babies are sedentary. So when a baby is in a capsule, they are totally deactivated. Their system is switched off when they're in these. It's very different to a baby being carried, for example. A baby being carried or in a carrier, there's a very different bodily activation and experience going on there to a baby being carried in a capsule or lying in a pram. The passivity of that system, and then when they've got a dummy, well, we call them a dummy, but a pacifier plugged in, the whole system's shut down. And we need this whole system firing. There's neurons firing and connecting every day, well, every second of every day. Babies' brains are growing phenomenally in that first year of life. In the first 2 years of life, we'll grow 80% of our brain growth occurs in the first 2 years. We need to make sure they get as much activation and experience as they possibly can during that time. And so it's something to be aware of. There's so many things we can prop and put our children in these days, and parents are on the move and on the go, and there's just not that opportunity for them to be experiencing like they would have been, like we would have been as humans over thousands of years of existence. It's become very, very quickly diminished in a very short period of time. We've now lost a lot of that early movement, and I think it's something we need to have those conversations with parents about. Of course, they need to have something to put the baby in while they have a shower or cook the dinner, but the problem is that they go from the high chair to the capsule to the chair, whatever other chair, to the jolly jumper, to the bumbo, to the, they're just moving from one container to the next. So it's that's what I'm really passionate about. I'm getting a bit worked up, sorry. I do get very very worked up about, yes, floor time. Babies need time to explore. So I want to touch on the idea that occlusion is a learned function too. It's a movement-based function, and it's like speech. It's a fine motor pattern. And if we think about what are the movements that are going to enable this to happen, and how do we think about each set of teeth representing an important developmental step. So the anterior teeth come in. Now, you dental people will know a lot more about this than me, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. And the anteriors, they start to signal back to the brain about where they are in space. So the whole idea of being, I find it amazing that the teeth grow into occlusion in this three-dimensional space. So it is quite a phenomenon that we're watching play out, but we've got to make sure we allow the opportunity for this optimal exploration and function. So those teeth come in at the front and they tap against each other and they're firing messages back to the brain. They're little biofeedback locators of where the jaw are positioning, where the jaws are positioning, and the tongue learns to sit back in it. It's amazing how we don't injure ourselves all the time with these soft tongues and lips and things and these very hard, sharp teeth. But the brain has this amazing blueprint picture. And the eruption and occlusion of the first, so then you get the first molars, they start to bring in a boundary around. And then the second molars bring in the vertical height and more occlusal support and the boundary for the tongue and the positional feedback. So we know that we want the tongue to fit the arch form. We know that that's kind of how it ideally works. And then what's interesting too is the neck becomes more upright as the musculature learns to cantilever and balance the head. So it's a phenomenally important support for the body posture when the jaw lands in the right place. So what I really find when you've got dummies and things coming in and interfering with that information, it can have a massive impact on how that whole system is coming in. And it's phenomenally important when you get that three-dimensional occlusion and stability landing there, the whole body posture gets locked into it. And the cuspids with their long roots are critical in developing eccentric and lateral agility and are the corner boundaries that keep the anteriors from being compressed. And this is something we really see with dummies. The cuspids become long, they drop down and they lose that authority around that. And when I read that, I thought, wow, yes, and they're keeping this over-closing from happening, and we're really interfering big time when we're putting things in there that are interfering with this profound physiology expressing. So sensations and touch and pressure are carried to the brain through the mesencephalic root of the fifth cranial nerve. These sensations in turn monitor and modify the motor impulses transmitted to the muscles that control mandibular posture. With experience, the muscles learn to position the mandible in such a way that torque or stress on the roots of the teeth is minimal, while still providing a maximum of dental contact. The teeth are then in occlusion. Wow. When you get it right, it's perfect. And teeth don't break and rot and all those other terrible things that happen to us when our occlusions are not balanced and perfect like that. What have I got here? Just a paper talking about the face and the primary motor cortex. Just to really reinforce that what a profound impact all of these early essential movements have on that sensory motor cortex in that lower third of the face. And once again, I think we're really interrupting a lot of that with things like pacifier and bottle use. That part of the brain is not growing as it should be to really control this lower third of the face. We've already gone through that. Just to look at the impact of this sort of plagiocephaly or skull flattening and things on that brainstem and cranial nerves. We just talked about that before, about how much information is coming out of that area. And we do see this a lot with kids spending so much time on their backs now. It's a really, really important thing. With the SIDS campaign of Back to Sleep, parents need to understand that means they need to spend a lot of time counteracting that with tummy time, minimal time, as I say, in capsules and things that are putting more pressure on the head and keeping them in those positions. We need that activation of all those muscle groups down here to help pull that occiput and really stimulate that area to grow out again. And working with people like myself, craniopaths, osteopaths, chiropractors, craniosacral therapists who can look to address this sort of issue. And just understanding that cranial balance and how important that is for the optimal function. And this, look at the foramen magnum, and this is where the brain stem and the cerebellum are sitting in here. So just when you've got compromise to that area, it will have an impact on that motor planning and function. And so that's, if you've got a child that you can see isn't progressing as you would expect, and you're doing whatever you can to get that progression, but it's not happening, it may be that you need to work with someone who can look at the neurology behind that and make sure that all those cranial nerves are functioning and there's not primitive reflex retention that will often be what you find when you've got this compression around the occipital base. So what we want is, as nature intended, plenty of time on the tummy, exploring, getting that body moving. All right. So the stomatognathing system that Renata was talking about before. So just thinking about that importance of all of those early movements of breathing, swallowing, activation of that whole area to keep, and just the complex muscle groups involved. And the other thing I was looking at the other day was the origins and insertions of all of these muscles. There's so many intricate little muscles that are doing all of their work around the jaws and face. And all muscles have an optimal functional length. And when we've got jaw posture, that's, for example, in a class 2 overbite, something like that, you've got a lot of these muscles that are shortened and dysfunctional. They can't work at their optimal length because of the jaw posture. So there's a whole lot of dysfunction that occurs once we start to get the bones not landing where they should in the occlusion, the teeth. You start to get all this muscular dysfunction, and they're just trying to operate how they can, but they all have an optimal length and an optimal functioning they should be doing. Dynamics of forward head posture. So I'm going to sort of jump out. I'm going to jump around a bit now and just move into starting to talk a bit more about the impacts, longer term impacts. And I know not all of you deal with babies, so there's lots we can do in that early developmental phase. It's recognizing, it's looking at it, it's kind of having an understanding of where it comes from. And this is why we've got to work multidisciplinarily, because if you look at the dynamics of forward head posture, a lot of that's set up very early on, and it ends up in a dentist's office with a loss of vertical dimension, and then it gets treated for just that. But if we don't look at some of those origins and what we need to do to try and fix a couple of those pieces, or really work with a couple of those pieces, we're really going to get a limited outcome, and it's not going to stay. So it's sort of understanding that early trajectory, where it goes, looking at things like, so from my perspective, the dynamics of forward head posture, if a patient comes in to see me, I'm looking at their forward head posture, but then I'm looking at their forward head posture from the oral perspective. I'm a chiropractor with an unusual perspective. So the majority of the people who are working in the body space are looking at it going, all right, it's the forward head posture, right? And they're missing this piece and what role that's played in that, because once you get tongue dysfunction, you've got attachment of the hyoid back to the shoulders. That's a really big piece on what's creating forward head posture. Or is it the other way around, that the body postures created the class 2 overbite? Because there was a forward head posture there, they didn't ever establish good upright posture, and the whole system's been shut down from very early on. So it's a really important picture to build, and history will give you a lot of that when you sort of look through and you can start to piece together where the weaknesses in the system are. Oh, going down, where am I going? Going the wrong way. Okay, go this way. And looking at some of those body postural adaptations, it's really important to address the body posture. If you're working with anyone over the age of 6, really, who's started to get a lot of postural adaptation around these weaknesses and these aberrant breathing patterns, you've got to sort of then look at, okay, what's underneath a lot of that before you try and just fix one piece. Here's a little guy that I've worked with, and if you look at him, you can see all the body adaptation. He was 6 when I saw this. Terrible oral dysfunction, but you look at and the tightest diaphragm I've ever felt in my life when he first came in, and these massively adapted quadratus lumborum muscles where the breathing was just, and up the top here, so he's pulling up with the rib cage and down with the rib cage, and just really already so adapted to this dysfunctional pattern. And so you look at that and you go, okay, there's probably a crossbite in there from the look of that head posture and the body posture. There's something else, so there's, and then you see that and you go, yeah, sure, there's a crossbite. So you've got to look at the body posture, how it fits with the oral posture, and sort of fill the picture out. It's just a bit more of his jaw stuff. I'll play you a video, but you can't see it.
From the moment of conception, our movement drives our growth. Development of a human being is a series of quantum leaps in movement, genetics, nutrition, and the forces of nature. So too, the growing mouth and the movements connected to it are a symphony of muscles, bones, nerves, and conscious choices. Within this is an ever-growing and seemingly conflicting sea of treatments, information, and advice about teeth, jaws, and faces that are as complex as it is confusing. Since 1967, the munchie has been used by generations of families to harness the growth factors of chewing and drive big impacts on the facial development and oral health of kids and families. These impacts aren't always achieved by munchie alone, and since its invention, munchie has teamed with practitioners of all types to create a collaboration of parents, children, and big picture clinicians that we call the munchie movement. All this from one simple device. How easy is it to use the munchie? As simple as ready, steady, chew. Simply put the device in your mouth the right way up, seal your lips around it, and chew gently, remembering to breathe quietly through your nose. The big impacts come with this simple daily practice of chewing twice a day for 5 minutes. With this chew plan as your baseline, your goals and your results, with or without a practitioner, will be as individual as you are. So, what will your munchie movement look like?
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about munchie. All right, so I'm just going to touch into a little bit of history. That's my dad, Dr. Kevin Bourke, who invented the munchie way ahead of his time. 1966, the very first patent for the MyMunchie. And originally he invented this appliance, red rubber munchies. That's what I grew up with, a red rubber munchie. And his original concept was for periodontal condition and the health of the gums and the teeth, because that was what was really prevalent in 1960s dentistry, was dental decay and issues around that. So we know that it's a great appliance, really amazing appliance for oral health and hygiene. So if you're working in the dental space with adults, this is a great tool to use. So that was all the original work that he did, was looking at the benefits of chewing. With those little prongs that massage the gums and clean the teeth. So that's the original one. And then the more modern did the children's one in the sort of 1970s, developed the children's one, because he started to think, okay, well, I think this would be a really useful tool for children as well. This is him. He got really interested in that whole idea, and that's what he spent the next he was in practice for 50 years. He's probably spent the last 30 working on children's development. And so this is him, 1984, presenting on children 2 to 5 years. We know that it's a really, really useful tool for 2 to 5-year-olds. Absolutely fantastic for open bites. Anyone who's working with children that age, it's a great way to really influence the authority of that area and help re-establish good oral function. It's also fantastic for cleaning the teeth. So this is plaque stain, 48-hour plaque stain, and then 3 minutes of chewing. And so anyone working in, once again, the dental world, this is a great way, and this is a really good oral hygiene tool for parents, and you get those big added bonuses of myofunctional benefits. How fantastic. Clean their teeth at the same time as getting them nose breathing and exercises in their face. And I think that's my big passion. I really want to see every 2 to 5 year old chewing a munchie, because I feel like we didn't always, as humans, need to clean our teeth with a toothbrush. Traditionally, we would have chewed on sticks and, different things we would have done. Ancestrally, I now look at it and going, okay, we didn't always need to do chewing exercise every day, but now we do, because we don't chew enough to get that optimal oral development. So really want to see kids chewing good food, hearty food that requires a lot of effort, but it's very unlikely we're going to get enough of that, even with a really good diet. So 3 minutes of chewing will clean the teeth. So 3 minutes of chewing is just a good amount of chewing for every child, any child, every day. Would be a great thing if every child just did that. If you're trying to create change and fix a problem, more, 5 to 10 minutes. But Dad showed 4 minutes would change an open bite. Like, it doesn't need to be a huge amount of time. 10 minutes, you'll do it faster. Like, it's how much time the parent will engage, but even a small amount of time will get a profound change in these little people. And that's what's really exciting about it, because it doesn't need to be hours a day to get change. Small amounts, often, lots. And then the brain will start to get on board and the change will occur. This is just showing some of his, so back in 1990, he was published by Tufts University, Clinical Pediatric Dentistry. They were really interested in what he was doing back then, the Journal of Pedodontics. He went and lectured at Tufts University over in Boston. But this is when he was much older in his life, and I know he found plane travel really hard in his, as he got older, 65, 70 years of age, he didn't want to go anywhere. And at that stage, all his stuff, he was pre-digital. So all of his work was, he was in Australia. If he wanted to go anywhere and tell anyone about it, he had to go, and it was, he brought Dr. John Mew to Australia in 1978, I think, and thought the orthodontists will be really interested in what he's got to say, but they weren't, and they still aren't, but that was a long time ago. But he really was searching and looking. He did work with the Osaka Dental University, and they did research with this appliance, and they found, what does this one say? So this is some of their photos that they did showing the changes using a munchie in some studies there. And then the other thing about Osaka Dental University, there's a great research project which they published in 1984, where they looked at the oral health benefits, so the teeth cleaning, which they found was amazing. And then they also looked at the orbicularis oris muscle competence. And what they found with that was that every child who chewed a munchie improved their orofacial competence. So children who had malocclusions improved a lot more, but even children who had reasonably good occlusion. And so this letter here, and so I grew up with my father in the kitchen at night with double slide projectors, looking at before and after photos and going, oh, that's interesting. And he started to see bites changing. So he was looking at the cleaning sort of thing and going, oh, and then he started to see bites change. So he gets in touch with these Osaka Dental University, and they say, yes, we've noticed it too. Over 200 cases, they've seen that the occlusal condition, anterior crowding, crossbite, overbites, things like that, they've noticed it too. And so this is the work we see today. We just see it so profoundly beneficial for that age group. And this is some of what he was really looking at back then as well. And it wasn't just about a good bite. It was look at the difference in that child's face. And this is what we know. If you can get the authority and get that competence back, you can really enable that function and that expression, that optimal expression of that life force of that child. And that's what we're really looking for there in what we're doing. We're trying to really bring forth that optimal genetic expression. So to achieve outcomes, we need commitment and consistency. This is my dog, Alfie. He's very committed to sticks. He gets the biggest sticks you've ever seen. He's a dachshund, and he just very committed. And what that means is if you buy a munchie and you don't chew it, you're not going to get anywhere. So this is what the parent needs to understand. You won't get any outcome if you don't use it. And it's every day. Like, it's little bits every day. It's becoming a routine. It's just doing it as part of your lifestyle. So I'm going to touch now on a few conditions for use for, say, the BB munchie, and then I'll take questions about other age groups. So the munchie, the BB is really great for things like low oral motor tone. So we can use it from about 6 months of age for practitioners who are pediatrically trained and understand what they're working with. Cranial imbalance, pacifier replacement, sinus drainage, teething, and it's a great neurosensory tool. So lots of good broad conditions you can use that for. And so this oral rest posture, this open mouth rest posture is something that concerns us when we see babies who have already developed that, because we know that from there they can develop a mouth breathing pattern. So the BB is a great little tool to start doing that, getting that little bit of influence there that'll help them reconnect with that lip seal. And so when their mouth's resting open like that in space, the brain's not aware of that it doesn't have a point of connection. So when you bring the BB in and the lips come together around it, the brain starts to reconnect with that. It's like that open bite idea. When children have those big open bites, the brain would normally be coordinating where those teeth are landing. Something's interfered and it's lost its program. I think the mouth breathing is a little bit similar. If you can bring something in that helps them reconnect, the lips will start to come together, as well as getting that bit of strength and competence. Oral stimulation, that lower third of the face, we need a lot of information. That brain has set an area set aside specifically for that area of a huge amount. So we need to give it a lot of information because there's communication, breathing, feeding, so much to be done in this lower third of the face. So the chewing stimulates the essential neural pathways. So this is something that I've definitely seen. The children who, if they miss suck, swallow, breathe, that rhythmic movement and swallowing, they then may not get chew, swallow, breathe. So chew, swallow, breathe is the next coordinated action you've got to be able to do. Chew the food, coordinate, the body will do it. The physiology is there to use that same area to not allow food through to the lungs. But some children don't learn the rhythmicity of it, and that's something I think is really important to bring in. If you find a child that can't coordinate that, and once again, these are probably kids who are in our caseload of not particularly unwell or anything. They're not particularly symptomatic, but we can see it's a dysfunction. If we can get it working early on, by the age of 3, we'd like to see that they can sit at the dinner table and not be talking with their mouth full and not, that kind of thing. And that's an important neural pathway that needs to be established. Pacifier replacement, don't get me started. Lots of good information on that. We've done a study, we've collated lots of studies and put them into the different categories of the impacts and effects they have. And if you'd like a copy of that, we can send that through to you. Evidence-based guidelines for safer use. We've tried to put together from the research, what are the realities around when do the big impacts start and what does the research show. So we have got that there, and we really try and encourage parents with information so they can make a well-informed choice. So that's what that looks like, and we can send that out to you, the guidelines of different ages and what's occurring. That's a little one with a baby. The kids loving their munchies. And if you want to learn more about the munchie, I would strongly suggest coming on to Munchie U. We've got a program of our online protocols course, which is available to anyone. It's just self-paced learning for any of you to go on and do. And then we run live sessions for coming on and doing questions and things that goes with that. We do some live bits and pieces. And we've just started running as well we've started bringing on some specials for people who have gone through our course. We're now starting to run some advanced programs, which we're excited about. So that's my little overview for the day. We've got a special on for you guys too. I'll put that up on the screen. There you go. And anyone want to talk to me now that I've finished talking to you?
This is so exciting. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. And guys, just in case you guys are not seeing this correctly, they are doing an Airway Circle special offer. So it's $275 and use a coupon code that's on the screen. This is good until November 31st. And you can invite a friend for free. So pretty much 2 people can split this cost, which is insane. So I do invite everybody to take this course. It's super exciting. Most of us are already using the Munchie. Let's make sure that we have the education to use it properly and well. So thank you so much, Mary, for introducing this. I'm going to pass it over to Angela to ask any questions.
Thank you, Renata.
Thank you, Renata. And thank you, Dr. Bourke. This has just been an amazing presentation. Thank you for being here and for this generous offer as well. I know a lot of us are going to really take advantage of this so that we can broaden our education and knowledge on and about the Myo Munchie. I know that I use it as a myofunctional therapist. I put it in each of my patients' kits or my clients' kits and have them chew for about 5 minutes every day. And we take pictures every time that we have our sessions so that we can just see how much they are changing from day one. And when you said that your father was doing that and he was going back and forth and back and forth, looking at the computer screens, it's just wonderful to be able to know and see the difference. And it just put a big smile on my face. Everything that you couldn't see it because we only saw your face on there. But yeah, it was a brilliant presentation. Thank you so much. There have been some questions coming in, so I do want to touch on these questions and make sure that they are all answered. Beth has sent us a question. I'll go ahead and bring hers up. Excuse me, I'm looking at all of my questions that I have written down here. You did touch on around what age, and you discussed about the ages on when to begin the Munchie. When would be a good time to begin this on an adult? Is it ever too late to begin using the Munchie?
No, it's depending on what your outcome you're trying to achieve is. I think we can all do with some chewing exercise. I think that's the reality. Once again, to keep good function, it's something that we could all chew in the shower for 5 minutes every day. It's a good thing to do. My dad chewed through his whole life, and that was interesting too with him in his later years. He really felt like it kept really good authority around that lower third of the face and that airway and that breathing. He would use a Munchie at night, and I think it has got profound impacts. And we're doing a research project we're sponsoring a PhD student at Newcastle University, and it's actually in aged care, and that's going to be something we're looking at, really trying to, can we help facilitate and keep the chewing function working better so that they can support the jaws, to support the airway, to support the swallow, because we definitely know that that swallow mechanism is a choking hazard, really big issue there. So no, there's no issue on age and stage of when you start. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve, and you won't achieve the same outcomes as you will with little children, of course. But Dad grew space in his own. He expanded his own jaws from 30 years of a use of a Munchie. So it is amazing what you can achieve when you use it. So it depends what you're trying to achieve.
That's great. Thank you. I know that Ruth has a question. I have a lot of questions here, but I'm going to allow others to hear Ruth's voice as well.
We have lots of questions. We have a list. But before, I kind of wanted to know if you've heard of anyone using this as a heavy work tool. So in OT world, we use heavy work as a sensory kind of organization. And so is anyone else using this for heavy work? I have a lot of kids that can't chew gum, and that's usually what's recommended. And that's just not safe. But I want them to chew because we want them to use this big muscle, right? And that's going to help calm them down and better organize their overall sensory systems. And so, yeah. Have you heard of anyone? Is this happening? Am I just finding out?
No, definitely. That's something that we definitely, it's recommended for that sort of work. Absolutely. Because
how do we get more OTs on board for that?
Yes, I'm excited, Ruth, because this is a field that I think it's a brilliant tool for the OTs. Absolutely. So we do have a number of them in Australia that I know of using it, but I'm super excited to have this conversation with you because I think it's got so much application in your field. Absolutely. And that's definitely one of them. is to be as a chewing tool to be enabled to, and sensory feedback. Absolutely. Yeah, really important.
Ruth, do you mind clarifying what is heavy work, please?
Yeah, sorry. So heavy work is an activity that uses large muscles in your body to contract and co-contract. And that works on your proprioception system, which is your body's awareness in space. It's one of your 8 sensory systems. And typically you use that system. You can never really have too much of it. So it's an easy one to kind of control with a child that you're new to or that you're just starting to work with. It's a good starting spot for patients that have sensory processing difficulties. And nowadays, children don't really get a lot of heavy work. We're not outside as much as we were. We're a lot more on our tablets and sitting down. Even at school, they're not at recess as much as they used to be. And so they're not climbing trees. And climbing trees is that co-contractor. They're not carrying big, heavy books. They're not pushing and pulling things. Tug-of-war, I don't think is allowed on playgrounds anymore. It's not really always safe. So that's pushing and pulling. And it helps you organize your other 7 sensory systems. If that one's organized, the others usually can have a better chance of being organized.
Wow.
And so there's all different kinds of heavy works, but one of them is using the biggest, strongest muscle, right, in your face. And so that's the one you chew with. And so if we are using that big muscle, we're doing heavy work.
That's really, really fantastic what you're talking about there, because that's something I have really started to see is with those class 2 overbites. It's because of lack of heavy work, as you say. They've got lack of proprioceptive awareness. So when you chew on something, the children should develop the awareness of how much force they're putting in.
Yes, grading of force. Huge
grading
thing.
of force, and that's what I'd have munchies returned to me and they'd be ripped through at the back and I'd be like, what's going on here? And I started to realize that's what it was. They had no awareness of where their jaw should end, that rebound, and that was beautiful. The way you described that, that's fantastic, because that's what I started to see. And I thought, that's what's going on there. Those kids haven't learned the proprioceptive point at which the grading should occur. And the speech pathologists see it with they need jaw grading for their speech sounds. And you're talking about it, which is fantastic, the occupational therapists. Yeah, beautiful. And that's what you're seeing, dentists, in your offices as those big class 2 overbites where they've got no idea where their jaws are landing. Boom, they're just like that. So yes, Ruth, definitely use it for that.
Awesome. Okay, and then I had one other question. You mentioned the phasic bite. I have a lot of kiddos right now that don't have any phasic bite or a very weak phasic bite. It's not what you consider within normal range. And so what do you do if that child never really had a phasic bite and no one ever really checked it and looked for it, and now they are a toddler and they're having trouble chewing? They didn't have that initial reflex. So do you go back and teach that reflex in order for them to work through it? I was always taught to strengthen the reflex, then integrate it.
I think that would be the right way to do it. Absolutely. I think you're right. Because if you don't address it at some point, it probably needs to be expressed to be integrated. I've definitely had lots of people using this as a bridge to get to chewing. Kids who aren't able to chew and have been this is like a chewing tool to learn to chew. It can start to give them that, puts them into an occlusal balance, and then they chew around that. So yeah, it definitely can be a tool to use with your understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, I'll go to other people's questions now. Sarah asked, can it help with those little ones with I can never say it. Do you know what why can't I use my words? Yes, thank you. I sure know what it is.
Yes. I think it's a great tool for that, because let me grab one. Well, particularly the baby. If you can get the little child to engage in that and get the jaws in, and then play games with them, you can kind of pull and encourage. It's also about giving them a place to put it. So when they're chewing their normal food, they're not going to ever be able to get it forward particularly, whereas the way that's designed, if we can get it in, and then I've got a little boy I'm working with at the moment who's really retrognathic at birth. If I was more tech, whatever, I'd be able to find it and show you, but I can't. But I'll do some afters with him. He's now about 15 months old, and so he had a tongue tie release at about 8 weeks or at 6 weeks or whatever, and then we've been working with him chiropractically. But it's interesting too, he had a lot of low tone as well, and the older brother had a lot of low tone, so we've been working a lot with his tone, just driving body tone and really slowing down, encouraging the mum not to get him up walking, like that's just lots of ball work and lots of floor work and things. And now we're really trying to get the power up in the jaws. He's now gone on to a mini munchie to chew, but the BB's been part of it, just encouraging the jaws forward. And then once they're sort of old enough to get onto the mini at about 18 months, then it's chewing to try and drive it, while making sure you're getting a lot of release. Got to keep releasing through the tissues to make sure that there's enough, to optimize that forward growth, as well as occipital base, making sure that you're working with someone who's making sure that system is free to grow. So that's kind of the retrognathic approach.
And then Ashley said she's in the middle of the course right now and loving it. So she's looking forward to seeing you from a live call.
Right.
Yep. And then Angela, do you want to ask the next question?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. The next question that's coming up is it recommended to sleep with the munchie?
You can sleep with the munchie. I would only recommend it if you're a dental professional, just because you can move teeth over time. So it's more to do with that than I don't want to get classified as a dental product. I really want this product to be available to all of the professions, so I don't particularly prescribe it as a sleeping appliance. But if you're a dentally trained practitioner, that's the sort of thing that you could look at and monitor. And short periods of time, I think you can use it to help retrain. So 6 weeks or 8 weeks at a time, you won't get too much change orthodontically. But if you do leave it there for a long time, it will start to, and can be in a really good way. Definitely my father did use it a lot for that. But because I'm not a dentist, I don't talk too much about it.
Of course. Thank you. Dr. Jesse says, can you sleep with it and prevent mouth breathing at night?
So it can be a great tool for re-education on that front. But yes, using it for shorter periods of time, and unless, of course, you are a dentist, then you can do what you like with it, because you're allowed to use appliances.
Yeah, I have something else. Beth says, I ask patients not to chew it like a tough steak. Would you be able to explain the pressure or how much of a force you should put on it, the chew?
Yeah, I think it's similar to that conversation Ruth and I were having about that heavy forces around the jaws. You've got to be aware of some people who have got that issue, that unawareness. If you can see that they're grinding or they're really hitting hard on their teeth and they haven't got that jaw grading, you really want to go gently. They need to learn that gentle chew. So yeah, definitely something to be aware of. So majority of people, I think it's just that up and down chew for a start that you're really trying to work with, just to get that awareness and the balance of both sides, and the exercise of the lips and face. With children, I definitely want to see them doing rotary chews and things eventually, but they need to have worked out how not to rip through it. If they go straight in there and start chewing it all over the place without awareness, they can damage it. So yeah, not like you're chewing a steak, Beth, that's right, because you don't want to eat them, you don't want to break the munchie. But yes, it's trying to get that sensory awareness, the nuance of themselves, understanding.
Thank you so much. What does it mean if someone gags with it?
that a gag reflex can be set off for a number of reasons, but it usually means that that 10th cranial nerve isn't as integrated as it should or could be. If people are finding it challenging, sometimes it's just about, don't just assume that'll happen every time. If it happens every time, then yeah, they probably need a bit of desensitization and they haven't fully integrated the gag. But sometimes what will happen is if you're in a sensitized state, you're a bit stressed, that might be a bit overwhelming because your sympathetic nervous system is a bit reactive, putting something big in your mouth. If they're a mouth breather, that might make them feel a bit anxious. So it's kind of working with them to make sure they're calm enough to have it in, to manage it. And then, yeah, if you've got someone who does consistently gag, there are some tricks and strategies on helping people with gag reflexes, tongue on the back, salt on the back of the tongue, or different things.
I personally, the first time that I tried the munchie, it was an experienced hygienist who helped me figure out which size I should try out and all of that. So I tried out 2 different sizes and they both made me gag. So it was, I think, really just getting used to where my tongue is supposed to be placed and where it's supposed to go in the munchie. And as you're putting the munchie in the mouth, there is a slot, like an indentation, like a little concavity, and your tongue just kind of fits right into that little spot. Mine wanted to go everywhere. And so it's like, no, just breathe. Breathe through your nose. Just put your tongue right there. Yeah. That's
a little bit overwhelming. Yeah, it can be. That's a good personal experience because it can be definitely an overwhelming thing.
And I did like that you did mention to a good time to use the munchie is when you are showering. Because, sometimes you can make a mess. There's a lot of saliva as you're continually chewing and chewing and chewing. Your saliva production is increasing as well. So you're learning how to swallow with that as well and gather all of your saliva. And the good time I think it's a great time to use that is in the shower.
And that just brings up the good point of the munchie slurp. When you pull it out, slurp, get all that saliva, because that's good exercise for the lips as well.
Very good, guys.
What?
Go ahead, Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth.
My OTIs think it's a good idea to do in the shower because it's an environmental reminder. And so if you're more likely to actually do the exercise or to do the activity, whatever it is, take your medicine if you see your medicine right next to whatever it is you're doing. So that's awesome that you're going to see it, you're going to do it, you're more likely to participate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Renata. You can go.
No, you're good. We are reaching our hour. This has been so wonderful. We have a couple more questions. I'm not sure if we have time for that, but I'll say them anyways, and then you let us know if you have a few more minutes.
I'll have to go.
Somebody said it's been really hard to get the BB munchie ordering. Any suggestions?
At the BB munchie, we have it's all available on our current website. We had a few issues with our website last year, but it's been available all year, I think, on the website. If you're having any issues, just send us through a message, sales@mymunchie. Donna will make sure you can get a hold of it. You can't, at the moment, it's a practitioner-only product, so we don't have some of our stockists in the US. I think Rhonda at Maya Made Easy, she doesn't have it because we're trying to kind of keep it, we're trying to develop more resources around it so that when we do go to the public with it, they know what it's about. We're trying to educate them and we want to get more people on our listing on our Munchie practitioner page so that if they've got a problem, they'll go and find a practitioner. We don't want people to get it and think they're going to solve a big issue with it. It's a chewing tool, and it's a great little chewing tool, but we don't want people to think that they can do that instead of getting help and support. So
amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of, but yeah, it's definitely available from us for all of our practitioners on the one website now. It was on a separate one, but yeah. But hopefully we'll have a lot more resources together by the end of the year and it'll be much more accessible.
Perfect. Guys, I'm not going to ask the last question. And if you have any more questions, you can join Munchie Practitioners on Facebook. You can post your questions there.
Yep.
There's incredible practitioners from all over the place that will help you answer your questions. I do want to say that today is the last day for you guys to sign up for our membership. during the pre-launch. So all of our content is going to be available September 1st, but today is the last day for you to get an Airway Circle cup and a copy of the book Gas and $25 off. There you go. We all have our cups. Super exclusive gift over here, but we're very happy with the amount of people that have already signed up. We're so excited to be able to share with you everything that we have to offer. You know, and everybody always asks us, so what is Airway Circle? What exactly are you guys doing? Because for 6 months now, you have been given almost 5 free classes a week. You have a free directory. But what else? What else do you do? So my vision at first was just to be able to raise awareness for airway issues. And then I want to give. I love giving. It makes me feel so good. And I want to help. I mean, it's the same thing whenever we all hear whenever we have that patient that goes from looking like a sick child to being confident and happy and healthy and sleeping well and doing good in school. It just feels so good. And we all know that there's so many kids out there that cannot afford either therapy, a frenectomy, or maybe even a munchie. So that's why Airway Circle is here. We are launching a few projects. And we're going to be helping these patients find the care that they need, and we're going to be paying for it. And the way that you can help is by getting a membership. We're using most of that money to go towards these projects. The rest is literally just to run Airway Circle. Everybody on the board, we're all volunteers. We're all doing this because we love it. So please join us. We would love to have you. And then we're also going to offer for about 4 hours or so courses that are CEs for AGD members. So dentists, dental hygienists, anybody in the dental world, we're going to be doing CE courses once a month. It's either going to be on a Friday night or Saturday morning. And that's for the first one of the month. So first Friday or first Saturday of the month, you have 2 weeks to watch it. So if you're busy, you can still purchase and you can watch it for 2 weeks and then we'll take it down. So super excited for you guys to see. The speakers that we have lined up are insane. We have a huge course on cranial nerves with somebody that you guys know that's super big. We have a course on breathing with somebody from Australia that's super amazing. The lineup is going to be released very soon, but I know you guys are going to love it. So if you're an Airway Circle member, these are $199, and if you're not, it will be $250. So it's $25 a month to be an Airway Circle member. So it's really a no-brainer for y'all. We have some research studies that we're have out there for you guys also to be able to look through and download if you'd like. And then the last thing that we have is the products. We have some amazing products that you guys are going to have access to with incredible discounts. So these discounts are not available anywhere else. They're only going to be available for members of Airway Circle. So that is it. We're super excited you guys are here. You're part of our incredible, fun circle. Thanks so much, Dr. Mary Bourke, for giving us this incredible presentation. This Tuesday, we have Dr. Courtney. I can't say her last name, Donko, maybe. She is incredible with expansion and appliances. She's going to give us an amazing class on Clubhouse. On Thursday, we have Pat Pine, which is an awesome myofunctional therapist. And Friday, I am so excited for Friday. I hope I feel good on Friday because we have, I'm going to release the name early, Dr. Richard Baxter. So excited about this. So please join us. We have some incredible names. Our agenda is full until November. We actually got a super amazing name coming in November. I'll leave it like that if you know what I mean. Super excited for it. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being here. Please follow Munchie, and I cannot wait to see everybody on the Munchie calls because this deal for the Munchie University, we're all going to be there. So thank you, Dr. Mary.
Great. Very excited to be here. Go well. Love what you're doing, Renata. Lovely to be with you all. Here we go.
Thank you, and have a great day over there.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you, Dr. Bourke.
Thank you.